Welcome to another riveting episode of the Changemaker Tape. I am your host, Lois Castillo, and today we are joined by a truly special guest, Ronnie Dickerson Stewart, the founder and principal of OhHeyCoach. Ronnie has not only made monumental strides in her career, but she has also imprinted a lasting change within her community. And if you're curious about pivoting your career and using entrepreneurship as your tool for impactful change, this is the episode for you. Ronnie is a truly special guest, and I want to take a moment and just really jump into it because we have a lot to cover and I want to give you a space. So, Ronnie, it's so wonderful to have you here. And kicking it off, could you introduce yourself? Give our listeners a glimpse into your background and the journey you've embarked on over the last several years.
First, Lois, thank you so much for the beautiful introduction. I really appreciate it deeply. I think when I talk about myself and when I introduce myself to people, I let them know boldly, I am a sparkle sprinkler. I like to sprinkle sparkles and magic on others. And that may sound cheesy, but it's just about reflecting what I see in folks. And I am a people's champ. I am deeply committed to people and their individual and collective success, probably in a way that has shaped my career, probably in ways that I didn't even expect because of the integrity that I hold dear related to people and their just basic human needs and the requirements when it comes to work and life. But above that, I'm a parent, I'm a mom of 3 kiddos. And also, as you mentioned, I am a founder, principal, and CEO of OhHeyCoach, which is an executive leadership, career design, and learning company. And my expertise lies in that space and supporting executives and leaders, particularly in the advertising, media, marketing, PR, and tech ecosystem, and really navigating some of the stickiest, trickiest, and even some of the just common things that come up in their career, particularly in spaces where they may not always have the right on time resources or the right resources to tap into. And so that is what I do and why I built OhHeyCoach at a time such as this.
That's amazing. That's incredible. I'm so excited to dig into that because, as we know, anyone who knows Ronnie, you come from the C-suite. So when you think about that and building this OhHeyCoach and this platform to help navigate through their careers, what really sparked the inspiration that led you down this path to transition from being in the corporate space in this amazing industry called advertising and media and tech to entrepreneurship, helping your fellow colleagues navigate through?
I reflect on this often, and I think it's a beautiful question. I reflect on it often, and I've come up with there are some indicators really early on in my career that I could, if I could have written it any more beautiful, I don't know, I just couldn't have done it justice. But I remember in the early days of joining the advertising industry and being, fresh out of college, and I was born and raised in Kentucky. And that's not a major advertising market. So although I had internships and things like that, I had very limited exposure to the context and even the physical location, but definitely the context of what it means to just exist in a corporate environment. And although I have definitely put myself in the recovering high achiever camp, although I'm that person, I tend to do very well in institutions and I'm able to navigate them. When I was teleported to the world of America and corporate advertising, I found myself not necessarily having like overt difficulty, but this kind of subvert difficulties around just existing. And for me, I always have found that everything is figure outable. And so I used to do this thing when I would encounter tension in the workplace. There used to be, I first role was at 35 West Wacker in Chicago, and a couple of blocks away, there was a Borders bookstore, RIP Borders, that sat near the office. And when I would encounter some friction in the workplace or something that was confusing about navigation, I would just go completely douse myself in books in Borders, right? And I remember early on feeling like there has to be a better way that people like me can move through these systems where I'm not just like running to the bookstore, which is a beautiful resource. But I knew early on that I wanted things to be different for people, not just people who look like me, but I think that anyone deserves to have a career experience that is fulfilling and one that has far less friction if it's avoidable. And so that set me out on the path very early for people development, management, mentorship. And even when I named OhHeyCoach, by the time I got into maybe a mid to rising senior position, I had to start clocking my time and measuring it because there were so many people just rotating in and out of my door. Oh, hey, Ronnie, can we chat with no context? It would
Yeah.
always be a career development related thing. And eventually I was like, you know what? I want to be great at this. And I became a coach, a certified coach, dually certified coach. And a business was born thereafter, after I'd risen to the C-suite and then decided that the service part of what I do and the professional leadership part of what I do could be better served and better, what I say, amplified or extended by working with multiple organizations and people versus a singular population, just to see the impact that I hope to see in the industries I serve, where people really don't always have the resources. And so that's why I made a very important decision to even leave the C-suite. And lots of people, I left a good job, honey. I left a good job. I left a great job, even on paper, for a better one. And
Yeah.
that's that.
That's amazing. I think that's incredible. What I'm hearing is I was having impact and momentum in the organization, but the change I want to make, I want to have a larger impact to really help people have that tool as they navigate our industry. It is it's important. And I think it from what I'm hearing, it drew from your own experiencing and knowing, I think even the knowledge that you knew when you saw friction to go to borders. So many of us don't even know where to go. We just deal with it and try to navigate it our own. But I want us to you talk about OH Coach and how you help folks and leaders navigate through it. Thinking it from that aspect, your story is filled with so many notable moments and challenges. Can you share some standout achievements or milestones that you're particularly proud of as you navigate it for this transition?
Yeah, I think people talk about milestones in a way of these high achieving moments where they're getting awards and shingles. And I have plenty of those that I'm extremely grateful and proud of. But actually, my proudest moments were when I encountered some very important friction experiences, and it completely reshaped how I see career and career navigation. There are a couple of them that stand out for me. And one of them is very early on. And I had to be a year or two into my career. Maybe no, it wasn't even 2 years. It was a year into my career or less. And we used to get these paper, like your, not your W-2s, but Lord knows,
A pay stub?
the pay stub. Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. Your paper,
Oh, we're
your,
so old. Some of our audience may
I'm
not
like,
know
what?
what that is.
Well, the thing, and that's my brain. I just try to knock off the dust. But we used to get pay stubs in the mail, if you remember, and you
Yeah.
get them, just remind you of what you got paid or didn't. Sometimes it's hard to look at. And I remember my roommate and we got our mail one day, and we got a pay stub in the mail. We both worked in the same organization. We opened up the pay stub, and the pay stub in the mail was not either of ours. I believe it was either addressed to her. I might have been addressed to me. I opened it up and I looked at the pay stub, and it was for another professional in the organization. There is a quality control issue there,
Yeah.
and it got just double stuffed basically. And so I was like, okay, because it's at my house, I'm gonna look, right? I opened up
But
the pay stub and I saw that at that time, this is like in the single digit 2000s, at that time, that person was making a couple of $100,000 a year, and they were just a couple of levels above me. And this is a person I literally never saw in the office. And not to diminish their impact or work, but they were living working at a different pace at that stage in their career. And I'm sure it was well earned. And at that time, I was making $28,400 a year, just out here struggling and trying to figure out whether or not the possibilities for even being in an industry were there for me. We're trying to scrounge up a couple of dollars to get a bus pass in Chicago at the time. And that changed my life profoundly because I realized I was in an industry where there was opportunity financially and probably not a cap in terms of what that could look like for me. So I was like, game on, I'm going to figure this out. And then the second thing that happened that was like one of those distinguishing moments, that's not an award or a shingle, happened to be when I started like designing my own roles or designing how I negotiated my roles. And from a designing my own role standpoint, I remember one of the most profound roles I designed for myself came on the end of basically losing a client transitioning from an agency. And I decided to raise my hand to be like the last person standing and do a little bit of the grunt work that came with transition, which included people management, which included being a part of some of the hard conversations, which included being a part of the handoffs. And I knew that currency for being willing to do some of the stinky stuff could transact to me being able to design something next? And so those moments were informative in terms of like how I could architect my career. And then I kept designing things after that because I knew that if you can express value, if you have inherent value in terms of the work you're doing, if there is a
Yeah.
need, if you can fill a need, that's a transactional thing that you can create currency that can be transacted into your benefit. And those mean so much to me because they have informed possibility and they have set me up for the things that I've been distinguished or awarded by because it's allowed me to do work where I can drive impact. And that's why I'm looking at right now at trophies on my things and stuff, and they're beautiful, but it's the work behind it that really matters.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned a term, and I want to make sure everyone knows currency. Could you
Yes.
go a little bit, share a little bit about what that means in building that currency and what that is and how that's helped you where you are today?
Yeah, I'll give you like the short version of it because it was like
Yes.
currency. We've got all types of curriculum and learning
Yes.
experiences that I share with my clients on this topic, but in its plainest sense, currency is exactly what it sounds like in terms of just something that is valuable that you can exchange for something. Like when you think about currency in terms of dollars, euros, etc. But career currency are basically like the invisible points that you're earning in the course of being you who you are, doing what you do, building relationships, navigating some of the things that can be sticky or even difficult or amazing, and then understanding that has built inherent value for you that then will allow you to navigate a system, a place, or a circumstance differently and maybe navigate it in a way where you have upside. And so I coach my clients at all levels and really my seasoned clients because they are in a place where they're designing more and their roles can be beautifully crafted is that when you can express your value and understand your currency, what you transact for could be amazing and beautiful things that really inform not just your career, because at that level, we're talking about life, work, intersections related to career design. So that's what we're coaching against. And so the currency that they've built over years, even not just in moments, allows them to craft these full lives that allow them to just be the humans they want to be. And so that is my sweet spot where I work with clients that have currency developed or they need to develop more currency in multiple ways. And there's quite a few ways you can develop currency, even through thought leadership and visibility. That's one of the main things I'm working with my seasoned clients on now, that they have platforms, they have voices, and they have resources. What does that look like in terms of even a personal insurance plan for them to have a future beyond even their role now? Because a lot of my clients are 10, 15, some even 5 years away from what could be a retirement. But then how do they leverage themselves and the currency they've built fully to like air quote fund that, but to actually be in that space of slowing down or just accepting the things that they've earned and deserved. So what currency are we playing with right now in the interest of career and life design? So that's currency.
Listening to you talk, I started thinking about the currency that I just, even for myself, that you build in those relationships and how it's have given me the space to navigate. I think really understanding that with currency, as you build it, it gives you power and choices, which is so important.
Yeah, not even build it though, Lois. I think people build it all the time and they don't recognize they have it. And so they do nothing and they don't cash it in. And so to me, it's almost like I use the analogy of if you just had a bank account, just a regular bank account, and all you did was put money in it, you never took it out, and it's not building interest or nothing, it's not even working for you. And so a lot of people are just like hoarding currency and it just sits there. Or maybe there is like something that's a depreciating asset. They put their currency as that, and they like have a car. You don't drive it off a lot, or you drive it too much, and all that kind of stuff, depreciating asset
Of
stuff. But
course.
I notice that people don't always utilize currency they develop because they don't recognize they have it. And for me, that is one of the distinguishing things that allow people to like, it's almost a line of demarcation in your lived experience in your career when you recognize fully who you are. And you're like, oh no, I have the juice, I have the sauce, I am enough. What do I want to do with this? And then also, how do I want to express the fact that I know, I'm familiar with my currency and I know what the value exchange could be with a company or another space, and I'm able to communicate that. That is a very specific sweet spot that takes sometimes some support and coaching to navigate and articulate.
Thank you. That's wonderful. I appreciate you going deeper into what currency is. I want to take it back to you and that career pivot, especially from the C-suite to entrepreneur. I know personally that this wasn't an easy decision, a light decision. But how did you ensure that this new path aligned with your core values and your purpose? You've been talking about career development and talent and being an advocate. And we talked about the bigger impact, but really want to know, like, how are you ensuring that this new path, your Oh Hey Coach, is aligned with your core values and purpose?
Yeah. I think there's a couple of parts of that. One is the decision to go down this path. And then the other part is, let's call it the reconfirmation along the way based on the things that I do, how I'm building my company, the relationships that I'm in, the partnerships I go in, the places where you see me show up. So from the standpoint of deciding to go down the path and build Oh Hey Coach, I coach my clients on the idea that they have a course that like beyond your Maslow's hierarchy. And I know Maslow might have borrowed or stole that from someone best, but beyond that hierarchy that Maslow shares, there is another hierarchy. If those things are satisfied, like food, safety, love, the core ability to go into homeostasis, all those things. And mind you, I know there are people that don't have those things satisfied. So shout out to them. But when we think about, for the most part, the folks that I tend to work with, they are in these high visibility, high power careers where, for the most part, that hierarchy is satisfied and they're at the level where that hierarchy is satisfied. But beyond that, there are a core set of things that just allow them to be fully themselves as a human and show up to the spaces that they want to show up to fully, or show up to the partnerships and relationships fully. For me, I started looking at my personal set of requirements and my personal hierarchy, and that included flexibility because I'm a mom of three amazing kiddos. It included a level of financial stability that agree with the lifestyle my husband and I have decided to have. That also for me meant playing in the green space, which for me, that means innovation and impact in the interest of advancing something that's purposeful. And then also meant integrity. At the type of my hierarchy and requirements is integrity. Like I need to work in spaces with people on projects that have a high degree of integrity attached to
Yeah.
them. And I tell everybody, I get the sticky, prickly, like it's not even just projects, it's people, it's places. When I'm like, something stinks here, I have a physical reaction to it. And I get the prickly things in my arms and my spirit, and my
Yes.
body will literally go into fight, flight, fear, freeze, aphid mode. I become a different person when there's no integrity on the table. And I'll translate to my kids. Sometimes my kids happens to my kids. I'm Llama, I'm Mama
Yeah.
Bear. Like she's coming through. And I feel the same way about people that I support and protect. And so
Of
when
course.
I decided to go into Oh Hey Coach, I knew that it fully and build out my company that's existed for over 7 years, but it was part-time first. When I
Yeah.
went to fully build it out, I knew that I could build out something that honored all those requirements on my terms. And it was time. It was time. I had the currency, the connections, the considerations, all the things in place to make it happen. But also like that one part of my hierarchy, like the financial piece, and people like I've never talked about this on any platform or podcast. It's important to share here is that I'm historically a risk averse person. Once you have motherhood and matrimony and a
Yeah.
mortgage, like different, right? People call it the golden, I would say platinum handcuffs. And it feels really good to be sitting somewhere and get a paycheck a couple of times a month and health and benefits and all of that. So to move away from that and to validate something to replace that it was more than like I didn't just wake up one morning and decide to do it. We went through significant family planning and saving and just building up a network of clients and building up offerings that could be supportive to those clients and be a fair business exchange before I set foot into my company fully. But also I took a bridge role. I took a role in an amazing company that allowed me to
Okay.
be number one, but to be the number two it allowed me to be a number two to an amazing leader. And that allowed me bandwidth to just move differently. Like when you're the number one in a spot, there's a different posture.
Of
But to be
course.
the number two, it felt like I got to be a consultant, an advisor, and not the person on the 24-hour call to solve a crisis or show up in a different way. And I needed that bridge role while not only I built out Oh Hey Coach, which is something like going into that bridge role is, yep, this is what I do. I do Oh Hey Coach. It's like it's fully
Yeah.
transparent. I share all my businesses and they know this is what I do. And they receive me as a person who has multiple businesses in addition to being a full-time employee. And it worked out for me that way. That is how I was able to make that switch with an integrity standpoint. And then now the day-to-day is I just get to vet my partners and clients for those same filters so that I'm spending my time in a way that feels congruent. Like long answer to A very beautiful.
No, that is amazing. I think you introduced something that so many folks may not be aware of as bridge roles
Mhm.
and what that looks like and being intentional. What I hear is every step, like, oh, hey, coach, you fully has been around for several years and you have, but it was, you did it on the side and you strategically, even in the C suite, strategically move through with intention and making sure that your, as you say, your hierarchy was going back. I'm hearing you going back and checking, making sure that's aligned and the role so your full human self so you can be have the impact that you want,
Fully.
which I
Like, I use my hierarchy as my job description, or
uh,
my partner my part like, people are like, "Am I for that? What's job description say?" I use it as my vetting criteria to even go into partnerships now. It's, "Okay, look at my hierarchy. Does this impact flexibility, my finances, green space, or integrity? Okay, if there's a pressure in one of those areas, okay, let's dig deep into it." Or if I get into partnership and there's friction, I typically can go back to my hierarchy and see where there's misalignment. Like, I've had clients in the past where scope creep has happened and they're like, I was like, "Oh, the terms of our agreement, is this."
that.
And those, like, "You're messing with both finances and flexibility over here and a bit of integrity." So I know where where the friction points are so we can resolve it in a very direct way, with me understanding where I'm coming from before engaging them.
I love that framework. Your work resonates so deeply with so many. How do you see it influencing positive change in our industry?
I would say it's taken a while for me to declare this publicly, and I'm intentional about declaring it. But two things. One is our industry has a really great habit of doing a couple of things that I find interesting. One is we have a really great habit of over indexing on the development of super junior people and bringing them into spaces and giving them definitely things that they need, but we over index on that and say, "Oh, we've done a great job." We also over index on a very clear part of, individual's career where there's a drop off of things that allow them to move through milestones and inflection points that naturally happen, but are urgent for them to sort. Or we have a really good habit of not being prepared for the things that life throws all of our ways that create uncertainty. I'll use the global panini as the example of that. No one knew that was happening, but we definitely didn't have any kind of infrastructure for uncertainty in most places. And Oh Hey Coach as a proposition and what I uniquely focus on is a lot of that, helping folks through change management, helping leaders go through inflection points. Like when I'm coaching and working with individual leaders, it's about their life and career design. When I'm in organizations, it's about organizations who care about retaining their best talent, who care about moving people through their organization in a way that allows them to succeed and excel. And they care about like reshaping even their organization through change, period,
Mhm.
whatever comes their way. And I work with them in that. And so that's why I know that at a time such as this, I'm helping to fill a gap
Mm.
that doesn't necessarily have enough people to fill or address. And so I think that Oh Hey Coach is a distinguished offering from that standpoint because there are a lot of folks who tend to just show up and agree to like service the things that our industry tends to lean on more deeply. The other thing I would say, Oh Hey Coach is a differentiator is this. There are a lot of folks who have great philosophy,
Mhm.
but a lot of folks who don't have proximity to issues or lived experiences who then come out and purport to say, "I can support you." And I'm like, it takes a little bit of more proximity and perspective and all of those things to really be effective when you're thinking about supporting folks and companies in our industry. Like, you can't take perspective and proximity off the table if you want impact.
I love that. I love it. I do. I think perspective, proximity is the key. As someone who did learning and development for a very long time and working with partners, I think people assume they know our industry. For me, I always think of our industry as the rock stars of corporate America because we move different, because you're combining creativity, tech, so many facets of the business and output and ideas and how we move. It's just different. It's like, eh, I've had the pleasure of working in multiple industry, and there's nothing like our industry. Not to say the respect to the other perspective, but just how we move and navigate. It's uniquely us. So, want to wrap up for our listeners who might be considering this or eager to create change or create a bridge role. What was some wisdom that you have that you like to share?
I think change begins within like your curiosity and ability set. If there's
Hmm.
something that you're super curious about, a problem you're interested in solving, I encourage people to pursue that, even if it feels uncomfortable, you feel nervous about it, just to see what comes up. A lot of us, especially if you come from my camp with high risk aversion, we resist those things. You're like, I don't know what it takes. I get it. But everything that has been beautiful for me has happened on the other side of really big risks. And this is from a completely risk averse person, a highly
Okay.
vigilant person. That's now me opening up another side of my life that feels very beautiful and already full, even though it's the beginning of it. The second part is like bridge roles specifically. I believe in five career seasons we coach our clients on: your growing season, your sowing season, your glowing season, your woeing season, and your going season. Within those five career seasons, like understanding where you are at any given point may inspire you to really think about the time you spend in different places and the time you want to spend, like sometimes like even rethinking or resting without impacting your finances. That happens for a lot of my clients in their woe season. They're like, I want to work. I want to be at a different pace. Like it's time for me to take a woe, get into a role that allows me to have different perspective and then to evolve. Other folks, a bridge could be a break too. Like it could be an adult gap year or things like that even I've pursued. And so I think we get really concerned with climbing a ladder and when a bridge can get you further and faster in a lot of cases too. And so don't be distracted by the ladder because there are abundant bridges that can change your life.
Oh, that's so profound. Thank you for saying that. I have one last question. Talking about Okay Coach, what's coming next? What should we be looking out for? What are you working on?
Oh
I
my
mean,
goodness. Okay, so
if you can share a little bit into
I
what's
can share a
going
little
on.
bit. A
Yeah.
few things coming next. Like right now, I'm gearing up for like my partnerships going into the full suite of this upcoming year that are aligned to our folks who are supportive of change management and development of their leaders. I'm game on for partnering with other organizations in our industry. I'm really super excited about that. I have a private coaching community that reopens in the fall/winter. It's called The Collective, powered by OhHeyCoach. And right now, it's such a beautiful community, and people's lives are changed by their membership. And then also coming soon, there'll be a live experience that I'll be hosting in a city that will allow us to gather in the interest of life and career design for folks in our intersecting industries. And more to come on that. I will definitely maybe even come back to this table and share a little bit more about that when it's ready to go public.
Well, thank you so much, Ronnie. Your journey has been inspiring and deeply educational. As we wrap up, I want to say thank you for sharing your stories, your insights to our listeners at the Change Your Table. Remember that change starts with a vision and a single step. Keep pushing boundaries, and we'll see you on our next episode.